All right, hi everybody. This is the Nephew Scrum for R1 on June 7th. Let me bring up the board. I think we're making progress. Okay. Okay. Shit. Excuse me. I'm being recorded. So all right, you're seeing the board, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get through. This is a nice to have. I'm just going to move it to the end. My goodness. Still a lot of things in progress, aren't there? Did that work? Okay. Okay, so this one, so I have a PR. This one we did the manual tests, right? And so it looks like it's done, but I actually have now, I just, my PR for,
John, could you please increase your screen or window which you're shining, because it's a bit, we are seeing only part of the board. Yeah, it's better. Thank you.
It's better, okay. It's because I'm splitting my screen so I can still see what's going on in the, so I can still see the Zoom call. So yeah, so it got small.
Sure.
All right, let me find the PR. A few people have run through and tested the PR, Ravi and Vish and Eric. All right, let me find it. So I have a PR here where what I've done is okay, test. There 3 in this automates this. So Victor has brought up the point in this PR. You'll see that like really I'm pulling everything from like it's not testing. If we were to run this the automation here against, if we were to just run it, it's going to run it against everything that's checked in. So if we want to be able to run it against a PR, there's going to be more work that's going to need to happen. But at least we'll have an end-to-end test that like you can just run and you can see that everything's working. So what, so this automates, so far I have tests going through and automating, where is it? Automating, sorry. Well, I don't need to dig into that level of detail. Let's just say I have tests automating. There was already all the sandbox provisioning stuff. So that's all working. Now I put in this PR, I put in a little test directory that's very, very crude test framework that basically any shell script you drop into that directory will get executed when you tell it to run the end-to-end tests, and it will. And so the things that are in there right now is first it checks to make sure that the sandbox got up and running and that the management and management staging clusters reached a ready state. We can put more tests in there. That's all it does right now. Then it goes and deploys a regional cluster. Then it goes and makes sure that comes up. And then it goes and deploys edge clusters and make sure those come up. And it deploys the free 5GC control plane functions to the regional cluster and make sure that those come up, at least through MongoDB. So we can enhance this later, but I'd love to get any final reviews on this and get it submitted, and other people can then start adding potentially to it. There's also a manual, the README goes through step by step, and this is what Vish and Ravi and Eric have been through it, and I think mostly with success. on GCE anyway. And it goes through and it uses the things that Dennis just did. It uses all the latest things everybody's done to get us all the way through the point where we're at right now that people are getting to is near the end of the list in the README, which is where we start to actually try to deploy the network, the network functions we want to specialize. So we can get through the control plane, and we can deploy the operator, although I believe it's the old version of the operator. So so if we can get this merged, then other people can also start to go through that and make, start to look at those last bits, right? Because I think to get those last bits done, well, we'll go through the board and we'll see what's left. So anyway, that's the status right now of that. And I think this is in the same position where it's like we have it and it's been manually tested. We need to build the automated EDE test, and then we can consider it closed. All right, is Stephen here? I think he submitted a
Yep.
PR.
Yeah, a pull request is there finally.
Okay.
Yay.
It's a bit in draft state. Obviously, there's no end-to-end
Yeah.
test. There's something in between, right? So there's a piece that posts PVS. That's a piece that takes package revisions and push something down to ESA. The middle. So I verified, not even through PVS, but I verified that I would wait for these packages coming up before SMF would be applied. So that's there. So I just need a middle thing of how do I tell specialization, these UPFs are waiting for this UPF has to be done before the SMF, basically. I mean, this is already there. So I don't know. The information is how do you push the other UPF deployments onto the SMF package?
Okay. So
that piece is missing.
Yesterday we talked about, right, there's four or five different solutions to that. I think if you want to like I put out a proposal for the way that slightly more detailed proposal for how I wanted to do that with. I don't know if I got any.
I did not put feedback yet, but the one comment I have, John, is you have to put that as part of the specialization SDK, I think. Because we have to inject, someone has to put that those resources in the UPF, in the SMF deployment.
Right.
They need
So,
somehow
yes,
to work together. So you would, I would build this on top of the SDK.
John's design is to the specializers that would be doing the copying. So someone has to set up some annotations or something to get that specializers to copy.
Yes, you have to. It is a specializer. Mm-hmm. It is like the other specializers. It's a peer to those, but whether it's part of the SDK or not, I don't know. Like so yeah. If people can now, if Stephen already has a solution in the topology controller, and we get that, like I think we should. I guess what I'm saying is
I don't have the full solution. So now with the topology, if it's FreeFiGC as the vendor type, I would make sure that the SMF that connected to the UPF, the UPF packages the PVS would go out first, and then unless the package revision comes up, the SMF PVS would not be generated. So that's there. But then there's still missing the part where the UPF deployment needs to be replicated onto that SMF package. So that part is missing.
Yeah, that's what this tries to address. But yeah, if you guys, there's open questions, so I would like it reviewed. I didn't have time to actually implement it yesterday. I just wrote this up, and then I worked on other things. But I think this is about a day's worth of work for me to get it done without tests. A little crude.
The only thing that we have to do is make sure that the NF deploy function eventually gets to know about it. That's why I think it should be part of the dance, because you have to.
I agree, it should be part of the dance. It's just
you have to ensure that NF there will be a change to NF deploy function to do that, because it has.
I see what you're saying. It should check some sort of readiness state
Yes.
there. Yeah, so if you can put comments like that's like I had some questions on how the conditions should be managed. You know, and there's still this question, and this will, I guess, always be a question, and maybe it's just not an issue, is that at any time things might change, right? So that's more about our approval process, I think. Like, right, like when do you decide things have settled and we approve it, as opposed to, you know, like if somebody adds a cluster later, you're going to get a new draft, and you're going to get, you know, you should, and so there's a period when clusters are, or everything's being brought up for the first time, when if we approved really fast, we would be making a whole bunch of revisions. Maybe we want to have like and right now the auto approve has a 2-minute wait. You can configure it to say, wait 30 minutes, you know, and like let everything settle. And then, or just make a human approve this, right? Like, I don't know what, but that's kind of my strategy for how we deal with it in the beginning. There's lots of change. But yeah, please comment on that, and probably.
But I think, you know, I see the thing is, at some point, while I was thinking about it, yeah, the problem is I didn't comment because I'm debugging something really funky in the specialization. But the issue is that I think there's a way that you know all the
like
packages, right?
Topology controller would know. So in the case of topology controller, it would know when it's done. So it could do an approval, for example.
Sure.
In the case of just PDSs that are manually created by humans,
a human
we have
would
no
know.
way of knowing when clusters are going to come.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if interested folks could read this over, I'm sure there's 40 holes in it, but if it's roughly directionally right, you know, I have some open questions, would love some feedback on that. And I will try to work on it today. If directionally it looks right, I think that, yeah, probably right after this call I'll try to review your thing, Stephen, although it's a big PR, so it's hard to review a lot.
No, I mean, the important parts are the reconcilers. I mean, all the other junk is just,
Okay.
good builder stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's another thing is where do I put it? So right now I put it under Nephew operators, in the same side as the Nephew operator. But then, as we said, I don't know if I have time to integrate that fully with the operator. Besides, I don't know if design-wise it's a good thing to do, because it kind of acts as a sample SO. I think that's how we said it earlier. If we want to make it real NF topology, then
I see what you're saying.
maybe we integrate
Like
it.
it's almost like here's an optional component you can. I mean,
Yeah.
well, yeah, like everything we're doing right now is so alpha, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Then the
So
this
John,
is
the PR, the review that you wanted us to review, it's in the Nephew repo, right? The
yeah, it's in the
cross
test.
package injection.
Oh, that one is in the net. Yes, this one is in the Nefio repo. It's a PR. It's just the design. It's just this README file, right? That's all that's there right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, cool. All right. Implement. Okay, we talked about that. This is done. This has been tagged, and it works. So
Awesome.
Very nice.
Okay. P factor. Okay, this one now. Tal, is Tal here? Yes. What's the status here, Tal?
Yeah, so it's a little bit tied to Stephen's PR, but today we're actually going to start testing all the code together and seeing that it works.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you don't have to go deep into any of the Watcher agent related issues. They're all kind of together. And I feel like once we figure out this one actually is the critical one, the others will kind of fall in like domino chips. Like they're very related to each other. So
Um, and I would do test integration with that code. All right, awesome. This is the one with these.
That's
so
the
yeah,
one where yes, topology control is part of that. Your stuff is the other part, and then after that, with onto that would be the third part.
Yeah,
Well,
so
with them adding this, well, or some of us, one of us adding this back into SMF package, then the SMF controllers would have to also start processing the UPF deployment
that data,
that comes with the
right?
package.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so then maybe we should agree in order to unblock that work, we should agree regardless of how the data gets into the package, what it's going to look like. So is
Yeah.
that a list of UPFs, deployments? Is that, what does it look like? So I'm going to just put, can we agree?
And how is the controller able to know all these associated? Yeah, because they're not, so the SMF controller is watching SMF deployment. So the controller needs to know what are the rest of the UPF deployments that are loaded into the API server that I care about for this particular SMF.
So we're not going to, I think we're not going to try in R1 to like beyond SMF, beyond some sort of like labels that tell the SMF which UPFs it owns.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to try and like.
But we have that
We're
capability,
gonna have one
John, right?
SMF. Like
In
any
the-
given topology in our case right now, I think is going to have.
Yeah, it's more like the best topology, the most complicated topology we have is probably one SMF and two UPFs. That's probably the.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
we're
we-
gonna add and remove UPFs from that, but like I don't want to have like you'll notice that theoretically, right? We could have 6 regional clusters, all with an SMF in them, that then are split out into you know some sharded out
UPF can be
variety of
connected
UPFs.
more than
We're not
one
ready
and all
to
that,
do
yeah.
that.
But what we have to do somehow is tell the SMF to say which UPFs it.
Yeah, so the UPF deployments and the SMF deployment would all be loaded onto the workload cluster's API server.
Yes.
But then the controller who's just watching SMF deployment would have to know what are the list of UPF deployments that are associated with this particular SMF deployment. So there's not part of structure today, so maybe we can annotate labels somehow somewhere. So
There's different ways to do it. There is also provision in the NF deploy, which has a reference to other configuration objects.
okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you do have it.
So that's what I would use, because
you can do that. Yeah, we can do that.
it was built for that.
Okay, we can do that.
Is that
Okay.
something
you have
that
it
would be
explicitly.
there? Is that something that would be there if we're not using a
It's-
topology controller? Or are we
It
saying we're
would
going to use it?
Yes.
be
Yeah.
specializers that would add it, right? I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
if you do it through specialization, you have to do a change in NF deploy function, but it's not a big deal.
Okay.
But,
So I
then
added
you
a
have an
comment
explicit.
there. If somebody can document what it should look like, then regardless of how it gets there, whether it's through the topology controller or through this, whatever I called it, cross package injector, or whether it's through some other mechanism, it all looks the same. And then the operator that needs to pick it up and generate the configuration that work becomes unblocked. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
But at the end of the day, we still have just one question. So at the end of the day, we still have the SMF. I mean, you have the 2 points of the N4 configured in the SMF, right? I think that would be, that's how the SMF knows the UPF.
The SMF's
it's trying
own
to control.
N4 is configured, and then the SMF from the pure configs would be able to fetch the full config of the other UPF from UPF deployments, and then that would be the peers. N4 would be in there. Actually, for 3.5GC, we also need the N3. We also need the UE pool for a particular DN. So all those will be in part of the UPF deployment.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No,
the idea is that I think that basically the way Free5GC works, you have to basically grab a bunch of the information from UPF deployment and stuff it in the SMF package,
Yeah.
and then the SMF operator can interpret it and write the configuration properly. And so we need to agree on.
Luckily, Dennis did most of the work on parsing the NF deployment libraries, so it should be good on the actual processing of the operator.
All right, then on to the next item.
So sorry, one question there, John. So it's just not the coordinates of UPF, but also some information of UPF is needed that needs to be injected.
Yeah, that's the big rub, right? I think if it were just coordinates, we could have solved it, maybe even with the NRF, right? But it's not just coordinates. It's
right. So if it's just N4, then we can plug it into NRF maybe. But then it's a lot more. It's almost the entire all the IP informations on the UPFs needs to be conveyed.
But it's beyond IP, because if it was pure IP, we could have done it with the IPAM controller.
Yeah, so it's a UE
Because
pool, and then
it would have
DNN.
been we would have, because we, like, if you look to the IPAM or the thing, it's actually a service mesh controller, right? So it is a central resource where you query, and yeah, it does that. So, but it needs DNN, it needs all of stuff that's not even there.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah,
it just needs a lot of things it probably shouldn't need, but whatever. I don't understand the functions well
that's
enough.
why I only do it for Free5GC as a vendor. I mean, I don't do it for everything else. But yeah.
Well, we later on will need more information for UE routing, because there is a lot of things being shared. Being shared between IMF, SMF, and actual UE, and
so the
round part.
The UE ransom operating as a GNOB, that information we kind of probably would have to either hard code or somehow propagate that, because there's no specialization function on any of those today. So
for the time being, it's hard coded. So right
it's very hard coded. It looks very hard coded even when I look at UE routing it now, because it's the GNOB actually has no real function in the 5G core.
Steven, it's hard coded between three functions: UE runs SIM, IMF, and SMF. So basically, it's the same what we're doing with.
I see. So even the UE ransom config needs to be matching.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise, it's gonna be allowed to connect.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so there's plenty of work to do in R2. Okay, I don't see. Do we have anybody from the UI team? I know that there was. There's a PR that's almost ready for approval. I don't know if it's package variant set or package variant or both. I can't recall, but I think we'll have that soon. It's been reviewed, gone back and forth a few times, but I think there were just a few minor comments left. This one, I think we left as we need to get to it end to end. We're getting close. We're not there yet. All right. Similarly with that one. We just talked about the UI there. Okay, this we've talked a lot about.
That's part of the epic. I moved the whole epic over to in progress. That's why it shows up twice.
Okay. This one is the one, Tal, you said we don't need to dig into. It's the same stuff we were just talking about. This relates back to this topology controller. Okay, this. So that PR, this one, as a little test framework, it will indeed work over time, but it's started. Main point, Victor is we can test PRs. Code, merged code.
That's
So
also
it's
an interesting thing to implement, because if we need test the PR code, we will need to create Docker images from PRs, which is not in place right now.
Okay.
Yeah, can be done, especially that we have limitless, so to speak, Docker Hub account, so we can do some performance testing on it. Yeah, I will look into this. It actually makes sense to test, because for now what we have is the image build jobs work as a post merge jobs. So yeah, all right.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of things that have to happen to be able to do this. You have to build the images. You have to actually go through, like right now we've cheated in some places and we're using latest. But of course, if we're building images on PRs, we're not going to stick them into latest anyway. So like we need to, there's a bunch of plumbing that has to happen to plumb through container images, but also we make changes to a package. So in the example, Nephew example packages, I might change a package. So what I really want to do is test that PR version of the package. I've been doing that by basically pointing this E2E stuff at my branches of things,
right?
Which it sort of requires a lot of thought. It's not at all automated. So I think this is a bigger job, right? It's not. This is like going to take us. I don't think we're going to do this in R1. Like I think that, but this would be a great follow up after R1 is to sort of rework our process here, so that, because it's going to even depend on the repo. Like if I check in something to the Nephew repo, then it's about the Docker images. If I check in something to the packages repo, then it's about the packages and the package versions, and being able to test with a revision that's not like a tagged revision, which should be fine. You should be able to pass in as long as you're not doing deletes and stuff, you should be able to pass in the branch name instead of a tag.
Right.
But none of our Ansible, none of that's set up to do that. It's all just pulling specific versions.
Yeah. So
in the meanwhile, you said that you could run this as a post-merge job. At least we'll get some feedback if it can be run as a post-merge job.
So for now it works like this, right? So that every commit, basically all repositories that produce Docker images, they are building one every commit, and the separate job builds every time the tag is created. So this is in play. But what I was thinking, we will have to have some kind of way to pin the specific versions for those tests, because we, as you said, John, we will go to the scenario when we want to test the packages. So it will be good to test them on a set of Docker images, the components, or set of versions that we know that they work, right?
Yeah, right.
So this will have to be not sure how to do it right now, but there's have to be some kind of like a version matrix or whatever. In this way, we could also pull the images from the test jobs, so the build from the PRs, right? But it will also require a lot of manual manipulation. So we have to populate the list of images and packages, versions or revisions or whatever, to run in this particular test, which is, I mean, that's the start, right?
I think like this is actually a pretty big task. Like I think it's going to require design and a lot of discussion. So there's a lot to figure out. So definitely not happening right now.
One more thing, if I may also add about the generally end-to-end environment. I've added this comment to your PR. So for the Terraform thing, The main reasoning behind this was that Terraform, after each run, stores the IDs of every entities created in their state files. And those state files can be, for example, uploaded to a bucket. So then if you want to tear down the infrastructure, you have the precise, IDs of those entities. So for now, we're only creating a single VM, which is fine. So it can be done in whatever version, whatever way. But in next versions, I guess we will need more complicated setup. So creating like a networks, a few VMs connected or whatever, some VPCs and stuff like this. So then tearing it down or just finding, which job created which and if they are safe to remove. Without this, the way of accounting for them, it would be a pain. So that was the only way. I'm not like hell-bent on using Terraform, but it is convenient to have kind of a log of what was created.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Curious. Sorry, John. Curious, Rado, what else would you use beside Terraform? Just for my own understanding.
There's one which name I'm always forgetting. Let me quickly go through my bookmarks. It's like not a publi or something. Starts with P, which is kind of like Terraform, but you can use like a that thing, right? You can use basically like code in Go with Python, or even YAML if you're feeling
what was the
right?
Masochistic.
CDK. Pulumi, I think.
Oh, Pulumi. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, all of these are like, right, so we can eventually use Nefio, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
I think the Terraform's fine, right? Like that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I just mostly I was trying to minimize the surface area of places that need changes. So like right now, everything's with everything in the init, GC init, like you run one G-Cloud command, whether it's via CLI or via Terraform, and it provisions the whole environment and it can execute this list of tests. And if we do that, then, anybody can go and run that, right, manually. Whereas if there's a lot of steps of like, you create the VM and then you copy over certain files and then it just more friction for people. So I'm trying to make it as simple as possible to just click a button or run one command and boom, you've got an end-to-end environment. And, so then I just leveraged that same thing. So same thing for the Terraform. So mostly I thought I probably did break the existing E2E runs because I moved the E2E file around this shell script. And so I rather than having to keep the Terraform code up to date with the internals of what I was changing, I just had the Terraform call the same thing you would do on the CLI, but I didn't do it right because I wasn't able to test it. So Victor suggested some changes, which I put in, but I'm also happy to just not do any Terraform in this PR and merge this PR, but the existing EDE would be broken. The existing automation of the EDE would be broken. We'd have to modify the Terraform to call it in the new location.
Yeah, I'm good with whatever solution, like whatever works for you guys. It's
okay. I mean, just take a look at it, and if you're okay with what's there, we'll merge it, and then if it's broken, we'll fix it.
Yeah. I mean, besides this Terraform state files thing, I was just saying I'm all good with the rest of it. So I guess I can LGTM it. So
okay. Thank you.
Right.
I mean, make sure I didn't screw something up on the Terraform. I wasn't able to test the Terraform. I didn't have that set up. So like,
I mean, worst case scenario, it won't work. So we'll fix it. We'll fix it later. So.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so that's this one. We should have something there in place.
I think there's one more thing, John. I told Rado yesterday that there are a few end-to-end testing related tasks here, which could be consolidated, which I will do by today, tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of these are like pretty close to done. Oh, somebody just merged it. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Rado. Okay, cool. Then I think that does this one. This one just merged. Oh well, I guess there's some specific tasks here. Okay, we'll address those afterwards, like you said. So Liam, I saw you were working on this. You ran into some issues. You want to give a status update?
Yeah, it looks like it looks like the kept function for setting the root sync is not picking up the cluster name. It's actually picking up the package name. Just looking at that, I look at the Starlark code there to try and figure out what's going on. But we have a workaround anyway. When we actually, just run the when we run the render command and then just go in and fix it up as an editor, we can get it to come up. So the good news is
it's weird that like why that would only happen on OpenStack, or if there's something like some race condition or something that's causing it to get tickled in that environment. So okay, so
it's a bit strange, because I think David did try it on Windows and we didn't have to do this. So I think it's a bit strange. But I mean, I guess every time if I just download the kept packages and in a purely outside the install machine, I just run the kept packages and run the functions, I see this, so it's very strange. There wasn't a PR pulled in or something recently on that, was there?
No, that stuff's been there for a while, for at least a week or so. Well, I don't know. It's a blur.
Like if I just download the kept packages and just run that sequence of commands, without applying it, I can see that. I can see the text substitution going to root sync dash token name, whatever, rather than manage MGMT. I think Fikra sees it as well in his. But then when David, are you on the call?
Yeah. So when I did it on OpenStack the first time, I didn't have this problem.
Yeah.
And then on Windows, I used the Vagrant that Victor modified recently, and that worked fine.
Okay. So I've seen some weird, like, so Vish saw this. I saw it a couple times where, like, when I do my kept live apply in certain cases, it's like, hey, these resources aren't available in the cluster, even though they definitely are. And so I added a retry there. It was like brute force, if you're hitting it with a hammer didn't work once, let's just keep hitting it until it works.
Look at that. 90% of finding 90% of debugging is just finding the bug and knowing where to look. And we found it now and know where it is. So I think we should be able to. We have a workaround, so we should be able to nail it.
I'm kind of wondering if there's some other weird internal race conditioning kept that's breaking something, but anyway, let's dig into it, see if you can figure it out. We'll have to, there's obviously some, because I'm just saying I see an issue with live apply once in a while. It just seems to.
But this, you don't even have to do it just for the function render. You can go in and see you can see so you don't have to, you don't even need Kubernetes to find this, see this. So,
right.
Yeah, look, it's good we found it anyway. So we keep plugging away. But the good news is once we get past this, the rest of it works. So we can. Awesome. I think Fikra, you have the workload clusters up, don't you? I think. Yeah. Maybe Fikra. I think he wanted to do it. Oh, you're there, Fikra, are you?
What's that?
I was just saying, Fikra went on, and when we did this, workaround, we got the workload clusters came up fine. So it looks like it's all work. It looks like it's all working except for this thing. So.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
All right, so these are going along. They're coming along pretty well. Okay. This one we already talked about. This one we already talked about. Well, what's related to that? Bala, you were going to put some skeletons in.
So yeah, I'm gonna started with that. I'm gonna put some PR today. Just the skeleton of the contents that we discussed for the 3 guides.
Okay, awesome. Then
so just to make sure, I'm not adding contents, but just putting the skeleton first, and then probably we can all add contents together.
That sounds just right. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think there'll be there's a bunch of like if you go to the README on the test infra thing that I did, like there's like so many areas where people like Vish has asked questions or whatever. And it's like, there could be a whole description here, right? Of like why we do this, what it is, how to troubleshoot it, but like I'm trying to keep that list not outrageously long. But that would fill into these other guides. And so I think a lot of that content would move into these guides is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, John. Yeah.
All right. Wim?
So this one, see, I'm struggling. So the whole thing runs, but my packages don't get updated live in Porch. So it's very weird what's happening.
Okay.
And I'm trying to debug it. I'm not sure. All the IPs get injected. So they're all there, but Porch. So then Git is not updated. Porch is not adding the resources to it. It's really strange what's happening here.
We should sync up afterwards. So yeah. I think there's some. So typically, right, in Kubernetes we use optimistic concurrency. So the way that works in the normal Kubernetes APIs, you read a resource and it's got a revision associated with it, and then when you go to write the resource, you include that revision that you are basing it on. And if the resource has since been updated, the server slaps you back and says, hey, no, you can't do that. Somebody else has already changed that resource. So then you have to reload it, reapply your mutations, and resubmit it. And that works pretty well. Package revision resources and package revisions themselves are sort of a hybrid between a CRD and an aggregated API. So a CRD means all the ordinary Kubernetes API machinery is there. An aggregated server means this resource is actually backed by something else, and that the API server just sort of like shuffles off the requests to some other server. And I'm curious about how we're doing optimistic concurrency with our aggregated APIs, meaning package revision partially, but also package revision resources specifically. And I'm concerned there's some issues there. So I've seen other issues. I think I showed you that like different origin issue. I thought I was going to fix that with a bug fix I did in PVS, but it didn't fix it. So I think there's a bug fix needed in package variant. There may be some locks. We may need to move to use a less optimistic concurrency model for now, which is the optimistic concurrency is great in a distributed system because you don't necessarily have places where you can hold locks easily when you've got multiple servers managing the same thing. And also you can end up with deadlocks and things like that with non-optimistic concurrency. So, but it's also simpler to implement potentially. I don't know. You and I, we can meet afterward.
Yeah, let's meet. I'll show you what. No, it's okay. I'll show you what I'm experiencing, but it's really weird. I'm trying to figure out where the problem is, but it's like NAD runs, IPs are allocated, all fine. Status is not updated, although the status was set. And so the whole thing.
Well, okay.
So it could be maybe certain simple things, but I don't, because we also have this thing that we have to move from cap to the package revision stuff. So we have the capped status that we have to put But all right, let's think. Let's discuss.
Okay,
I'll show you what
afterwards. Yeah,
what is
there's some
happening.
weird
But
things
it's right now the whole thing. I mean, if I run it myself, it all works. But if I run it on Porch, it doesn't go through, and it takes forever.
Okay. All right. So there may be either some concurrency issues that we need to deal with and debug, or some other problems. So we'll figure out. Okay. All right. This we've talked pretty extensively about, and I think Bralo is going to do some cleanup here. We actually made some progress on a number of these, like I said. Okay, so we need I have the instructions. The PR just merged with the instructions, but the instructions won't work. Like up through about step 8 or 9 in that thing, when you start to get to this, those things aren't done yet. So it doesn't quite work yet. And I haven't written EDE tests for them, like the scripts. All right, those, okay, those. What's the status here, Bala? I know you raised it to the TSC. I guess is there going to be a TSC meeting tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll discuss this. So John, so I'll just give a little bit of status update. So in the call, I mean, in the release meeting, right? So when we started discussing, we came up with the same things when you had to leave that meeting. So essentially, semantic question is one thing, and we agreed that it could be, if it is, many of us agreed it has to be something like 0.1. At the same time, there were also debates around should be called R1, R2, R3, or some code names. And then we discussed 3 aspects. There are versions for the APIs, obviously, alpha 1, things like that. And then the package versions are there. And then when we do the branching for the Git, obviously we need to version it there. And then there is a public facing version as well. What do we want to call it in terms of marketing and other things? So so we thought it's slightly bigger scope. Instead of we coming out with one conclusion, say we want to call it R1, R2, or we want to call it 0.1. We just want to bring it to the TSC's attention in tomorrow's meeting, and then force them to make a decision by the end of day tomorrow or day after. So that's what we decided.
Okay, sounds good. All right, awesome.
Yeah, I think she added it to the agenda, Lucy, and then probably we'll have to explain it to them, and then we'll force them to make a decision, just like we did for the other one.
So there will be recommendations for them to pick.
Well, we will say this 0.1. I mean, whatever we discussed. I mean, some of us we were thinking 0.1. Some of us were thinking R1, R2, R3 from a versioning perspective. Then we'll also tell them the 3 different aspects of versions, which is one is the APIs, how they evolve over a period of time and their compatibility, etc. And then the version that requirements that we need for GitHub branching, and what do they want to do with the public marketing version. So I think we had 2 options from our side, but they have to choose. Yeah, cool. This point of time.
Okay. All right.
So generally, we didn't want to call it 1.4. That was the sentiment.
Right. Like, let's be realistic about the appropriate expectations.
Yeah.
So the scope of this one. Okay, so this includes all the UPFs. I mean, all the way through all the NFs. In which case, I'm just trying to figure out the scope of this. Okay. So that can't really complete until all the things are working. Okay, I think that's it. This one was like, this is a nice to have, like we said. And so we'll just, if nobody's ready to pick it up, we'll just ignore it for now. All right, any other questions? I think that Wim and I are going to discuss this weirdness he's seeing. The E to E one merged. So if people want to try, I'll put the
Yes, please, like if you can merge it, because I want to test that local path provisioners as applied
Rado merged it while we were on the call, so all we have to do is go, you can follow the instructions. I'm going to just put it in here. So here are the, let me stop the sharing.
I just went through the whole thing, John, but it takes forever.
Forever, huh? Like, did you do that?
Half an hour.
Manually?
No. It came through. It just takes time, but it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, that's what I also. It was taking forever. It took like, I don't know, half an hour or more for the node to come out. Are you talking about the end-to-end?
No, I'm talking about. No. I'm talking about specialization. So
the specialization. Yeah, that is a long time. Okay. So sorry, we were talking about.
Sorry. Yeah.
I just put the link in. You can follow this manually if on that metadata in step 1, there's a command there, and you can add this nepio run e to e true as it's like where it says startup script URL before the back at the end of GCE init.sh, say comma nepio run e to e equals true, and it'll execute all the way up through deploying the free 5G CP. But I mean, the idea was that you'd follow the README and do it manually. I need to update the images. They're wrong right now. They show Edge 2 cluster instead of regional cluster. But yeah, so this should work though. Other than that, using regional instead of Edge 2 cluster, just taking that command as it is and running it should work all the way up through step 10. Now the operator that it deploys, it's the old operator package from the workshop, so it's not the right operator. So we need to update that package version and everything to point there, but that'll basically get us through step 10. And then once the specialization piece is working that Wim's talking about, we'll do step 11, and that then step 12, which isn't there yet, would be to deploy the UE ransom and run a simulated call through there. I don't actually even know how to do that. So, so yeah, it should be working up through step 10. That's the short of it. So please take a look if you have time. And awesome. Thank you,
John,
everybody.
Do me a quick favor, and you said you're using an old version of the Free5GC operator. Could you give me exactly the image name you're using? Because we do have 2 different image names, but both of them are fairly recent. I mean, one is 2 days ago, one is 5 days ago. I'm cleaning that up now and making sure that.
So what you would do is in the Free5GC right now. Here, let me display this page.
We can do this offline after the meeting if you can just.
Well, I think the meeting's done, so anybody who's not interested can
okay. Sure. Awesome.
And I'll just show this to you real quick. So on this page, what you'll see is it runs this script, and in that script, well, actually, what I have you do in the README, and what the automated tests don't get this far yet. So in the README, you go through, and in step 9, you deploy it. So this file, if we go look at this file,
okay,
it's going to point to a package. It's going to point to a package, and it points to V2. So whatever V2 is, if you've already pushed and tagged the new operator to V2, then it's using the new operator. I don't.
No, we did not want to override existing tags, but
I might have actually. Now that I'm like, when I see the V2 there, it makes me think maybe I did use a new tag. maybe it is using the new operator. I might have forgotten that I saw that the package was there and I used it.
Well, we're not using that script anymore anyway, right? We're using, of course, kept packages to deploy the operator.
No, that's what that is. That's a reference to the kept package for the operator. It's
I'm a little confused. The kept package is what deploys the operator, right? So this is a reference to the. So is it the wrong version of the kept package?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Wrong version of the kept
Okay,
package.
okay.
So what I'm asking is, do we have a new version of? Oh, sorry, it's in the free 5GC packages.
So
okay, I see what's going on now. Yeah.
So I might actually, that's what I'm saying. I might have actually, if you already tagged it, I might actually be using the right one. So there's free 5GC operator v2 from November 15th, 2022. This is the package tag I'm using. So what you would do is if you update this free 5GC operator package and we tag it with a v3, then I can update the automation to use v3 of the package and it'll give you a new operator.
There is a PR for that stuff. If you can like quickly like review that from Simon, yes.
Right
this
here.
Is
exactly.
I would suggest that command line might best be get a version and as an argument, the script, so you can use it to install whatever version of the package you want.
So this is the E2E sandbox environment. This is the sort of discussion we had earlier, right? Like right now, it's whatever's checked in. What we need to do eventually is allow it to run against a PR, in which case we have to plumb through tweaking those versions all the way. You can install whatever you want. Obviously, this is like the instructions we're giving to people for how to try it out, right? And as part of those instructions, it's apply the operator, and rather than people having to type that in, I put it in a file. But it's not a
okay. So, should the instructions say to use the latest version of the package, maybe, rather than a?
I do that so we could do that. Like I do that. Oops, that's not the screen you're looking at.
Well, I guess.
And at some point, the automation has to do something, right? It either has to automatically determine the latest version and use that, or it has to use a specific version. If you automatically determine the latest version, then you can break the automation, right? It's not a repeatable automation. So we have to, this is sort of like, at some point it's all tagged and it's all doing one thing and it's repeatable. And so
okay,
right, it's kind of like, right now that's how it works. But I agree with you that we need a way that we can like easily test with all the latest stuff. I think I made a comment in like the workflow is awkward. It's kind of painful right now. There's a lot of like, I need to tag this, and then I need to go in and where it's being used, I need to update where it's being used. So that
right. Part of the workflow right now almost encourages you to force push new tags to the remote, because if you want to fix it, right, the usual, it's because we're using Git. I mean, this is one of my big problems with GitOps, right? Where Git is designed for code, but when we're storing data in it, we're doing stuff that is different, right? So if you tag something v2 and then you want to fix it, well, you're not supposed to be able to retag. You should do a version v2.1 or 2.2 for every little fix that you do. But and maybe that's what we should be doing. I don't know, but
that's what we're doing right now. I think that it's probably needs some additional, needs to be addressed in a later release about whether there's a cleaner or easier workflow, either by structuring the way we tag things or whatever. I don't know.
By the way, this is a quick question. How does Porch deal with forced pushes, right? I know it can fast forward its local clone, but what happens if there is a conflict with a remote?
Yeah, it's gonna fail.
Explode.
What's that?
It's gonna explode. No.
I mean, but so it's sort of like what happens when you go into a database behind an application and you muck with the data, right? It's potentially going to create a broken state in the database.
Right.
It's exactly the same thing, right? So you shouldn't be doing that unless you're following certain best practices to not break things. And if you do, then a package could achieve a broken state where it can't be deployed via the tool.
All right. Well, it does. Basically, our workflow should be that every time we touch one of those blueprint repositories for Porch,
yes,
and change something in a package, we immediately have to bump the version as well.
Yes, I do that every single time.
Always. Yeah. So those two things go together.
Yes. So I asked Rado to look into whether we can have a prow command to tag things, and he was gonna. There isn't one, but it's a potential plugin we could develop. But like again, that's a workaround for an awkward flow. Like you can actually go into Porch and you can say use revision main or use revision floating tag, but it's not well tested in my mind. It's not the workflow I've been using. So, and it's not like the recommended best practice. There's also an issue around when you're talking about deletions, but I know you commented on it. So you saw my issue I raised about how we're using config sync is wrong. We might actually, if we change to a different method, we might be able to use floating tags more easily. Where we move tags along and have things update automatically. But that's a sort of scenario of support I talk about in the package revision design, but I explicitly say it's not implemented. It's actually, I wouldn't say it's not implemented, it's not tested. Like there's nothing stopping you from putting in any tag or any ref, really, I believe, in the revision field of any of these resources, and it'll do something. I just don't know if it'll do what we want.
I see. Yeah, because there are basically three kinds of references in Git, right? There's tags, which are just aliases for specific commits, and there are branch names, which are always the tip of the branch, right? So a branch name reference is actually a floating reference.
Right.
Yeah, and that's an interesting, right? Because you could use a branch name as well, right, in Porch. And that means that every time it would actually be, it's not a fixed version, it's always floating. Maybe branches could be a way to, but then you have a different branch for every package in the same repository. It's insane. It's insane.
Exactly, which is really ugly. So like, I think that this is an area that we can discuss, not only for Nephew, but even for Porch, right? Like we decided to do tags and revisions in a certain way, but we knew that it was a starting point, right? And that was a discussion and an evolution of the concept that you're going to have. I'm not in love with the way package revisions are associated with tags and things like that. And I feel we should learn from our experience and inform the platform.
No, I'm very glad to hear that, because I would like to see this evolve better. I have a lot of misgivings about it. But anyway, thanks. So I guess the bottom line for this specific issue with it's using the wrong version is that, we just need to, it's actually not so easy. It means that every time, so let's say we make a change right now to Free5GC, the operators, we have a new PR coming in and changing something. If we want the ket package to pull that somehow, we probably need to tag our Git repo so that prow will create operator images with that tag. And then, well, actually, I see where you were going with this. So we would want the prow job to also then update the ket package repo, right? Because those, we have actually, we have 4 things that we need to do actually.
Yeah,
right. So first, I think we need to, let's put this, maybe we're way beyond time, and I'd like actually to get feedback from everybody. let's maybe make it an issue to tomorrow to try to discuss how we deal with operator updates, because I feel like during testing, it'll be really, really painful to do end-to-end testing when you have so much to do, right? And you don't want your
test for the last week. It is painful.
Yeah. Well, I'm worried. I don't want our testing and development environment to have to require Git tags, right? Because that just.
So
yeah.
Well, I don't think we're going to be able to address that in the next day, right?
Yeah.
If you think we can, awesome, let's do it. But like, I think there's a bigger topic. But what we can do, what we have done during development is most of these packages now use latest Docker tag. Then, it's the same. It's exactly the same issue with container images, right? It's a tagging issue. When do you bump the tag? How do you test it with the new tag, et cetera, et cetera? You have to plumb all that configuration through. And we need to do a better job of this. I just don't think it's going to happen in our
Well, here's another maybe hack. It's not so much a hack, it's actually supported, but in the package kept file, we add a set image kept function.
Yeah, we could do that.
So we can keep the same image and just keep the same package, but have the operator image version be an input.
Yeah, that's a possibility too. Yeah, that would be one way to plumb it. That works for the image changes, but when we actually change the structure of the package, that's when it's
right. That's not what absolutely. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking only about changes to operator code, because that's what we're dealing with. Right
now we use latest tag, but yes, we could do it the other way.
Yeah. Well, we don't want latest to be in the package, right?
You don't want it to be in there at release time, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I've kind of been fudging it for now with development, but yes, you're right. You don't want that to be there.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like a set image command that goes through. There's a few kept functions that the set image function is kind of crappy. I mean, it's like it requires too much information. Like I want a set registry and a set tag. Like that's what I want. I want those two functions.
Yeah, the documentation confused me a bit, but it does work. Yeah.
It works. Yeah, I've used it. It's just awkward.
Yeah, set registry I have, John. I built.
Oh, good. Okay. Good. Yeah, right. It's such an obvious thing, right? I want to set the freaking registry and leave everything else the same.
I opened a few issues and kept for changing some of the built-in kept functions that I'm not so happy with. People responded, but nothing really happened. I think maybe I just need to do a PR or something. And
there is a lot of if you go into the detail, the basic thing works, but if you go into the details, like namespace, for example, it's inherited in some structures. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Actually, that's my least favorite one, but yeah.
There's a gazillion of these.
Yeah, and those are things we should address, like we should raise and yeah. So with the CAP project in general. So, all right. Anyway, we are way over. Let's.
So John, I think before we conclude, I know we're over, but tomorrow we have one question I want to discuss. So tomorrow we have a TSC meeting. Obviously, I think we presented in the previous TSC meeting about the scope and of the release, and obviously, I think one question will be asked tomorrow. What our confidence in the release on June 15th. So I just wanted to discuss a couple of minutes on that one. What is your take on that? And so that we can be, we can have a consistent answer tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a call. I don't know. I was talking to Condon the other day, and I thought he was actually going to cancel the meeting tomorrow and book one for next week to do the approval. So that's why I was surprised that we still had one. But we need to have a meeting to do the approval. I feel like, appropriate as long as expectations are appropriately set, that we are, other than actually the biggest area of concern I have right now is getting our documentation ready. But I think there's enough time to do that. There's still a lot of work there, but like I've been going through this end-to-end thing, many times every day. And at least in this GCE environment, it's getting all the way through. Now I've automated all the way through deploying all the non-operator based functions, deploying the operator I've done manually. Like, I believe we're very, very close to being able to get, I think within the next day or so, we will be able to execute this full environment. And I'm pretty darn confident by the end of this week, we will be able to fully automate end to end, going all the way from zero to having a regional cluster, multiple edge clusters, having a core deployed on it, and doing a call. So to me, that's our acceptance criteria right there. It's actually beyond our original acceptance criteria.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty confident that we'll be there this week. And so by the 15th, which is Thursday next week or Friday? Thursday or
Thursday.
Friday next week?
It is Thursday. It could be, I mean, it could be even good. I was thinking it is Thursday, but we could even take Friday if we need to, right?
Yeah, well, I think we'll be there, right? Like then it's a matter of documentation, and it sounds like Liam and everybody is having some mostly success getting it running on a different environment. But even if we don't get it running on another environment, I think we're okay. So that's my position. I don't know if others agree.
Is there a standard checklist, release checklist that needs to be presented, or is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, there is.
Sorry,
I mean, basically, that's the release notes, right? We are going to.
No, not release notes, but like a release checklist in the sense like, hey, this is what you need to do.
There is, if you go in the, if you look in the community documents, there's some very high level thing there. Let me see. I had a.
Okay.
If
I were to be doing it in a product group in one of my earlier companies, I will have to present. Oh, look, I have unit test cases actually having 80% coverage. I have end-to-end test cases doing this.
We're not going to
So
example.
we discussed that in the previous meeting. That is, we are not going to do that for R1. Okay. So in terms of, for example, we are not going to say in this particular thing, this is our coverage, this is our integration testing coverage, these are the 7 bugs, these are critical bugs. We are not going to go to that level. That's why we asked this specific question that you raised in the previous TSC meeting. So in the the guidance that given to us was, the features that are going to be there, and then the documentation that goes along with the bits. In the release notes, we are specifically going to mention what features are there, what are the limitations and possible workarounds. So that is going to be the main things that we present to the TSC and get their approval. Once they approve, probably ready for the release. But I totally agree with you. From the next release onwards, we'll need to present more things about the coverage, unit testing coverage, and also integration testing coverage, including possible.
Yeah, that was an example, one of the criteria.
Yeah. So do you think, Bala or Vish, or if one of you could make a slide or two that shows here's those points you just said, Bala, that we're going to cover in the approval, and then maybe we can run through that with not the content, just the outline of here's what we will present next week, and make sure that the TSC, if we're going to have a TSC meeting tomorrow, just say, hey, this is what we're going to tell you next week about each of these things. And then we also, as a group, can look at those right now and say, yes, we think we're going to make that. But like, that might be helpful, just like actually have the presentation effectively without the actual content or the actual status values of what we're gonna say.
Yeah, I can add that slide to the TSC. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. If we have that, then I think it'll be easier.
I'm thinking that's pretty much what I put together in the release notes issue.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's just put that on a slide. Say, here's the checklist. Here's what we plan to discuss at the approval meeting. Is there anything else you want to see? And then we'll know.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome.
Hey, quick question. I just ran into this. I'm using a VM with 4 virtual CPU and 8 gig of RAM for the sandbox. Is that enough, or do I need to increase? I'm getting some weird errors.
We'll find out. The README as it's written right now provisions 5 kind clusters. There's the management cluster, there's a regional cluster, and there's 3 workload clusters. So that's a lot of VMs. There's a lot of Docker images. I don't know, CPU is infinitely divisible, right? Things just get slower.
No, because I remember in November we were talking about a large VM, but I forgot.
8 CPUs and 32 gig RAM is what we came up with, and that is what I think we're still using.
What? Can you repeat, please? Sorry.
8 vCPUs and 32 gig RAM.
Oh boy, that's gonna consume the entire RAM on my laptop.
And then at least back
try
then
it with
also
less. And you can also go through and you can create only 2 edge clusters if you want, right? Or even 1.
Yeah.
Right? You can reduce the scope, but to create a sort of something with some variety, it requires a fair number of simulated clusters. But I think you're probably going to be fine. It's just the only actual resource limits I've hit are disk. You need minimum 60 gigs, but I bumped it to 200 because Google Cloud complains that you might have I/O issues if it's below 200. So 60 should be sufficient. Although the more clusters you add, the more disk it uses. And then
I have 100 gig disk.
Okay. And then the other one I've actually hit is some of the kernel configuration, and we've already put that into the Ansible fixes those values. So and then those are the only places I've seen failures due to lack of resources. So obviously changing those kernel parameters implies some additional demands on the hardware that I don't know what they are implicitly, but I haven't seen any issues. So I would try it with 4 and 100 and less RAM and see what happens, I guess, is best I can say.
Okay, I'll try it. Well, I can't run them concurrently, but I'm creating an 8 gig, a vCPU and 16 gig, and see if the laptop take it. Anyway.
Okay, I mean, if you find you can do it with less, then we can reduce these requirements. It's just because we have, at least I have unlimited access to VMs. It's easy to just spin up a big one and not worry about it.
Stop bragging, man. Making me jealous.
Well,
No
in
worries.
the release notes, we'll put that, John. Contact Jan for.
Yeah, right.
I know Vim actually got it less, but for me, it's always been if I didn't get 8 and 32, I always ran into some kind of issues. And also depending on the OS you're using, Fedora or Ubuntu, you also need to, the partitioning of your root, the root directories, you need to make sure that you're able to extend the partition because it'll have less and then it'll run out of disk space very soon, at least on Fedora.
Yeah. Right now, 4 vCPU, 8 gig of RAM, and just 100 gig disk space. And
what is the OS? Ubuntu?
Ubuntu.
Okay.
And I took the Ubuntu default disk partition. And I have the feeling I might have to blow that away and create, use the other one. So
I know the Red Hat folks would like to use RHEL or something, and that would be great if somebody can try that out. I don't know what would have to change. I think some of the scripts would have to change because
it's in my, at least it's in my mental checklist, because we have so many things where we're using apt packages and stuff like that.
Exactly.
We need to actually open issues and get them to, didn't want to stop the progress at this time.
Right, like one thing at a time, but that obviously is something we would like as well to have other images.
Kyle should turn off his ears for a second, but I'm less comfortable with Fedora and Red Hat because of all this.
That was also the point of using Ansible. It's kind of distribution agnostic, so you just say, have the package, I don't know, Apache 2 present, and whatever's underneath, it will just execute either it's apt or YAM or whatever.
Yeah. But we have some shell scripts where we are using apt And I actually brought it up to Victor too, and we agree that, yeah, we'll look into it and make sure
So
that
I
it's
think
more.
there are certain pieces that right now, yeah, are done. That if we migrate over to the Ansible, then we probably can make that easier. Like I think that I know there's still there's a kernel module that needs to be built that, and that explicitly uses apt-get to pull in, kernel header, Linux header file modules and things like that. So, there's a few things, but I think post R1 that probably could be a little project somebody takes on to.
Yeah, we're just on a first release, right?
Yeah.
RAM wasn't built in a year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Let's stop this one recording, and then Wim and I, if anybody who wants to hang on, can for this other debugging discussion.
I think I found something, John.
Ooh, all right. I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you all.
Thanks.
All right.